Drita, my homegirl, Chapter 1. For 3 days before I am coming to this country, I can't eat. My mother is afraid I'm sick, and the Americans will turn us away when we get to New York City. But my grandmother said, "Don't worry. Now that my father has his American job, no one can turn us away." She said it's just the excitement taking away my appetite. For once, my Jusha is wrong about something. It's not excitement that keeps me from eating my dinner, it's worry. I keep wondering, what if I don't know my own Baba when I see him at the airport? It's been almost 1 year since we were together with my father. The more I think about it, the more worried I get. Finally, on the day we are leaving for New York, I get so tired of worrying, I eat a big bowl of delicious trahana my grandmother makes for me. While I eat, I think to myself, this is the last food I will taste in my country. Our plane lands in New York in the middle of the night. At the airport, I can feel how hot New York is compared to the Balkans. Even the air feels different on my skin, sticky and wet. I close my eyes for a minute and take a breath. I think to myself, now I am breathing American air. Even though it's the middle of the night, this place is crowded with people. Then I see him. His face is all furry with a red beard he is growing, and he looks thinner, but he is still wearing his Albanian clothes. Now I know it was silly to worry so much. Of course, I know my own father. "Mirsi Arkt," my father shouts, welcoming us, and sweeps my mother and my baby brother up into his arms. My mother is crying, and we are kissing him so much. My mother cried every day that we were in Kosovo because we had to be separated from Baba for so long. For 1 year, my father was alone in America, getting money for us to come here. Maybe now that we are together in New York City, she will stop her crying. My father kisses me on top of my head, and we follow him through the airport to the garage where he parked his taxicab. Then we learned that my father's first American job was as a car driver. We were all sad that a man who had trained as an electrical engineer had to take a job that was senish te na dashina e tij, not good enough for him. But when I saw my father's taxicab, I thought it was lucky my father's first American job was as a driver. Now we would have a pretty yellow cab to take us to our new home, just like in a movie. I look over at my grandmother. Yeshi hasn't said a word since we got off the plane, except to nod hello to her son. Now she looks at me and smiles a smile so big that it covers her whole face. "America the Beautiful," she says in English. Sometimes from the way she smiles and tells jokes, my Yisha seems more like a girl 8 years old than an old lady almost 70. My father opens the trunk and puts our bags inside while the rest of us pile into the car. My grandmother, brother, and I are in the back seat, and my mother is in the front. "Zonje," says my father, and makes a little bow. Inside the car smells sweet, like perfume. Yeshi and I watch silently as my father drives the car down the ramps and tunnels of the airport. Soon we are on the streets with the lights of America everywhere around us. How does my father know where we are going? He must have learned enough about America to fill a book. Does he have any American friends? While I think these things, my mother talks in the front seat, telling how it has been for us in the 10 days since we left Pristina. The crowded bus we rode when we left the city, the soldiers with their guns, the Albanian people we met living in tents by the side of the road, and finally the airport, where a man checked our visas and made her cry. My father just nods and keeps his eyes on his driving, and the dark and twisting streets of New York City move past us like a blur. Just looking makes me tired. I wish to see where Baba is taking us, but soon I am falling asleep. When I open my eyes again, it is morning. Now I have a new home and a new country, I think to myself. But as I look around, I begin to feel sad. My new American home is just an apartment, smaller even than our house in Pristina. And everywhere you look in this new American house, there is something dirty and old. Walls that have the dirt from cooking on them. A ceiling that has pieces of paint falling down. Windows that have so much gray dirt you can't see from them. Even outside, the glass there is nothing to see except an old, dirty wall. At breakfast, no one is talking about our dirty, new American house, but you can tell we are all thinking the same thing from the way my mother brushes off the chair before she sits down, and Yeshi stirs the trahana like she believes something is going to jump out of the pot. Even my baby brother sniffs his bowl before he takes a bite of his breakfast. My father looks at his family and puts down his coffee cup. Zat, what could I do? He says in Albanian. This was the only place we could afford. We are lucky to have it. And this furniture, too. Look at this table and chairs. All of it was a gift. All of it dirty. A gift for the poor, my mother says with a sound like crying coming up in her voice. Please, my wife, let us enjoy our first American breakfast together. But it is too late. My mother rushes from the table and into her little room, slamming the door behind her. Dashi, my father says, calling her by her first name. Now he is up from the table too. Through the closed door, I hear my mother crying. I hear my father too, speaking to her in a quiet voice, trying to calm her. But it won't help. I know why my mother is so sad. Grandmother, is Cousin Zaina a Zurich? My grandmother puts her arms around me. Shh, Drita, not now. Even worse than those who were forced to leave their homes like my family and are the people who are Zedurker, disappeared. Because I am a child, I am not supposed to know about the Zedurker, like my mother's favorite cousin, Zaina. But of course, I do. Everyone does. Come, in a few days you will start your new school, but right now I need your help. My grandmother takes a big bucket and a yellow brush from under the sink. Wah, wah, my brother yells as she fills the bucket with soapy water. Soon we are on our knees cleaning the floor with a yellow brush. My brother helps too, stirring the water with his fat little hand. Selet bota anamedane, najor lane vantain, de po shenkimne kurzut, my grandmother sings. At first it feels strange listening to this old Albanian song in a dirty new American kitchen, but soon I begin to sing myself. Te vendosim ardemir se I humbim dashur de te humbin de fini. My grandmother is a very wise woman, I think. She knows that when you are sad and far away from home, the best thing to do is to sing a song in your strongest voice. I wish my mother knew that too.